Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I'm your host, D Palm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. You can follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. If you're going to talk about the show on social media, please use the hashtag UDPod so we can find you. I've gotten 2 tips on good stories for this week that we're going to talk about off the hashtag. People give us praise, people make fun of me. It's just a good place to be. We're brought to you, of course, as always, by the MTR Network. It's the one place you can get it all. We can get TV reviews, comic reviews, movie reviews, podcasts. We talk about video games. We talk about politics. We watch old movies. And, of course, now we talk about sports. And particularly on Fridays, most recently, we talk about pro wrestling. You know him. He's been in the last 2 weeks. He's here a lot. He's also from PW Torch's East Coast cast. We got my boy Rich. What up, Rich?
Not much, D Palm. Looking forward to talking Graps.
Man, we got a full week, so you might as well just get right to it. We're not even going to go over the card so far because they were building the Fastlane. It feels like the company as a whole told everyone to just slow your roll. Everyone just stay in place. We're going to book the rest of this in a minute. So the card still remains what it was last week and the week before. The 2 matches guaranteed. Let's talk about some things that are happening outside the ring because we're not going to start with WWE today. And I know sometimes people feel the disconnect, like, why are you talking about these other promotions, because the things that happen there can directly affect what happens on your TV Monday, Tuesday, and on your network television the rest of the week. So TNA, or the company formerly known as TNA, I think it's Impact Sport. Is that what Anthem is officially retitled? Is it Impact?
Yeah.
Okay, so Impact Wrestling. It's come the time of year where a lot of their annual contracts have come up. And while there was a spate of signings earlier, I think in December, where they re-signed people like EC3, people to longer-term deals, some of the bigger talent hadn't yet been re-signed. I know Moose re-signed because I want Moose in NXT really bad.
Yes. Well,
I want Moose in NXT really bad.
I think the biggest mistake, he learned from the people we're going to talk about in a minute. He jumped with them, and I said it, I first guessed it, he made the wrong choice. But that domestic abuse
the first jump I think made sense for him. I think he was so excited to get that second deal that it felt like I got to resign. But let's talk about some of the people who are no longer with Impact Wrestling. Maria, Michael Bennett taking the leave. Drew Galloway, formerly Drew McIntyre from WWE, and you've heard reference on this podcast, if you follow pro wrestling at all, a little bit, if you have a slightly wider view than WWE, you haven't been able to avoid Matt Hardy's The Broken Matt saga, the deleted, the final deletion. It's been the thing in professional wrestling last year. Win, lose, or draw, whatever you think of it, it has impacted the business to the point where after final deletion, the next week, WWE put on a swamp fight at the Wyatt compound. They've been chasing their tail, but all those talent is now gone. And while there are different reasons for all of them, they all seem to boil down to the idea that these contracts came out 5 days before the last ones expired, and that a lot of the talent felt like they weren't dealing in good faith with the new owners.
Yeah, it was a situation where, like, if this was football, we're dealing with it now with the NFL. If you were a player and you produced really well, and you're talking extension, and then they don't say anything until like 15 minutes before free agency starts.
Right, exactly. And I know all the not signings they happen for their own reasons. I think that they made big misses on all 3 of these big not re-signings. But the biggest of all has got to be Matt Hardy. This is a guy who took he had nothing going on with his character. They gave him a little wiggle room to play with his character, and he took off like a rocket, man. And it sounds to me that the new deal from Anthem, from what's been leaked in the Observer and other places, is that the contract was in place, but they would also take 10% of any bookings taken outside TNA and 10% of any merchandise sales outside TNA. And people hear that and they say, well, that sounds weird. You have to understand that in other countries like AAA, they do that kind of thing in Mexico, but the thing is that AAA books them out. This is them getting charged for them being entrepreneurial enough to book themselves.
Yeah, this is like a pimp fee.
That's exactly what it is. And for someone who has enjoyed watching the Hardys show up in lots of different places, Vanguard 1 got super kicked at ROH a couple weeks ago. Shout out to the 8 people who understood what I said there. No one watches TNA. I'm sorry. It was fun to see the Hardys out there, and it looks like there is an ROH show. I forget what the title of it is. It's going to be the night before WrestleMania, but they're scheduled to take on the Young Bucks in Orlando. I gotta say, was this Anthem subtle way of cutting them? Because I know Matt Hardy had spoken openly and publicly on JR's podcast saying that he wanted a shot at buying in part of the ownership stake. He felt invested in the company. He said he wanted some more creative control over the company beyond his own character. And it seems like with this new ownership group, while some people were playing it as, oh, they were so busy they couldn't get to these contracts, which is an insult to the talent and a sign of incompetence from the ownership, if any of that's true, it feels like this is their way of tacitly saying future endeavors to all this talent.
I would say so if they all weren't in the main event scene in the last calendar year.
Right. It feels so strange.
I feel like this is like when a coaching staff comes in and they want to prove they've got the big boy pants on, so they cut the star player. This is like...
Yeah, but then later in the movie you bring back the star player.
No, not this, because they figure those guys will come back because there's nowhere else to go. Bennett and Maria can go to NXT, or they could go back to...
Today.
Yeah. The Hardys, obviously Vince is salivating.
That's where they're going.
They're not going to get creative control, but when you already know the door to creative control got closed by TNA, you could go to Vince, and Vince is going to give them far more leeway. Because let's be honest,
they won't get control, but he saw them draw. That's Vince's thing always. If it makes money, we'll do it.
Yeah.
And he watched them make money.
Yeah, we argued yesterday on the East Coast cast about it because one of the frequent callers had an issue with the idea of them going to WWE because it would kill their creativity. I was like, well, you have to realize when they were in there the first time, Matt Hardy was hell-bent on not being Marty Jannetty. He created version 1.0 and Vince let him.
Yeah, that was him.
And Vince let him do it. And then his pre-broken Matt, the real broken Matt after Lita left him for Edge, was another character that they let him go with. And the only reason they didn't go further is because he was so unstable in real life.
The thing is, people got to realize is the truth is about this business, everyone always comes back. One, bridges always get rebuilt. That always happens. Like, that's why I joke about Punk coming back any day now. And two, we're all here to make money. We're all here to make money. And Vince, for all the tribulations that the Hardys put Vince and that company through, he trusts that on a big stage, they'll deliver for him and they'll make him money. Something Meltzer said on The Observer, I think, earlier this week, I want to get your take on it. At his height, was Hardy more over than Punk?
Yes. Jeff Hardy, yes.
That's crazy to me.
Because
see, I was out then. I missed all this. I'm watching all this on the network. I'm learning now about Hardy's. So I had seen clips of the Taker match, the ladder match that made Jeff.
Yeah, that match was beautiful.
It's a wonderful match. But it was interesting. It's interesting to look back now, watching that now, having also like Bound for Glory in my head when he couldn't do the match against Sting.
Mm-hmm. Well, think about it this way. This guy has been wrestling for the better part of, I think, 2 years on knees that should have had surgeries he refuses to get because he wants to keep working.
Yeah. And I think you put him on a limited schedule to just work TVs, you could do it.
Yeah. And it would.
And those are the guys you'd say, yeah, you ain't gonna work house shows.
Yeah.
Those are the guys you say it to. Or if you work house shows, you just do like, you might pop the crowd. You don't wrestle. Because they've only got, particularly Jeff, there aren't that many bumps left. But I think if he got a few left in him, he wants to take them for the WWE. And I'm excited to see him back. And the Broken Hardys versus the Wyatts, I'm 100% here.
I was going to say they scream Smackdown, but I feel like Vince would be so greedy, he would bring them to Raw. Because he wants, Raw is the favorite child. So when the new toy shows up, I mean, I'm already, Meltzer mentioned it and other places that mention it, the Raw after WrestleMania, Kurt Angle's going to be there. So I'm eschewing going to WrestleMania itself to buy a ticket to make sure I'm in-house when that man walks through that aisle again.
Yeah, that's going to be something, man. It's going to be something. I tell you what, Matt Hardy's already been interacting on Twitter with Bray, with Gargano and Ciampa. Like, it's going to be, they're coming. It's all a matter of when. Let's put someone over here that we don't normally put over, both of us. Last week, we guessed on this podcast that Beth Phoenix would be the next entrant into the Hall of Fame. Lo and behold, she's in. Rich, really quickly, I was out for a long sabbatical. Give me this. What's the Reader's Digest version of Beth Phoenix?
Well, she started. It actually ties into my stuff with Bills as well. She started as a wrestler in high school against boys, where she got the Glamazon name. She would carry on to the WWE because she would beat the crap out of them in her weight class. Then she moved into WWE, and she was that transitional wrestler in the age of the diva, and now the age of the women's wrestler. She was the pure wrestler like Natty that could survive against some of those pinups that really couldn't wrestle that well. So her job entirely during her tenure was to make them look good and occasionally have good matches with Natty as well.
Well, even reading her wiki, like it looks like she collected a lot of titles while she was at the company, even in that diva kind of driven era.
Yeah, she was 3-time champ, 1-time diva champ. She eliminated, I want to say, one person and entered twice into the Royal Rumble.
His name is the Great Khali.
Yeah, there it is. I knew it was. I blocked it out because I was like, "Wow, yeah."
I saw it on the video packages this week.
Oh, that's going to be on every package that she gets because it's. And to me, to be honest, that's probably one of the worst parts of her career because Khali at that point was so injury ridden. It was almost as bad as Enzo not getting over the top rope when Cesaro tried to throw him a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that's well, good for us, good for her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad she's in. She's married to Edge.
Yep,
right?
married, 2 kids.
You think Edge inducts her?
I think so, but I think they probably would want to make it one of the women wrestlers to show the women revolutions had like fires burning before they showed up, something like that. Maybe Stephanie.
It's tough to guess because I think Vince would do both. I think Vince is greedy enough to do either one of them.
Yeah.
But damn it, no husband's ever inducted his wife. Like that's. Yeah. I can see Vince for the first time ever.
And
but yeah.
one of the side effects to this was. One of the side effects to this induction is a lot of fans online have been complaining that Macho and Elizabeth weren't the first couple, to which I say pump the brakes. 1, they weren't married by the time we saw them get married on TV. 2, you have to open up the problematic relationship they had. And 3, you have to talk about where she died, who she died with, and why she's not here right now.
That's my thing is like, I couldn't believe, I was going through the list of the women who were in the Hall of Fame. I couldn't believe Liz wasn't in.
Yeah, but then that opens the gate for the Luger Gate and all that stuff, and the abuse that
I
Randy
get that,
did.
But at a certain point, you've got to acknowledge her. She is the literal model diva.
Yeah,
she's the first lady of wrestling.
And I also think they get a little, because I believe if the rumor mill is true, they have a posthumous wrestler they want to give it to this year. And having 2 of them would be problematic because they died for kind of the same reasons. And that's Rick Rude.
Oh, I've heard the Rude rumors. Okay, then, so Beth Phoenix is in. We've established why Liz probably isn't getting in this year. I think it's weird that she's not in still. Yeah. When does Chyna go in? Because I think she couldn't go this year because you can't draw that much attention to what just happened, right. I think. But Chyna's got to go in because from everything I'm hearing, it feels like Beth Phoenix was like Chyna adjacent, Chyna like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, that's a good call. I think probably 2020.
Okay. I can live with that. I just think she should. I do think Chyna should be in.
Because I figure over the next 2 Hall of Fames, you could put in either Ivory or Molly Holly, or if Brock gives permission, Sable.
Wait, Molly Holly, really?
I mean, to be honest, if you're putting in the Glamazon, Molly or Ivory should have gone in before.
That's a fair. Okay, I trust you on that one because I didn't experience the Glamazon era. In departures from WWE this week, Jack Swagger asked for his release and has now been released from the company. Was that weird to do before collecting a pretty easy Mania payday and the Andre the Giant?
Yeah. I mean, he is a 6'7" potted plant. I don't think they knew he was there.
You can't just collect the check, man. I'm just saying, like, you could have just, gotten your money.
Yeah, give him credit. I mean, he apparently he was on Chael Sonnen's podcast and said he wants to get into MMA, and at his age and at his height, that's going to be a weird place to be.
It's going to be really weird, but guess what? If he does it, I'll be watching.
Yes.
All right, so we're headed into WrestleMania. Also headed into WrestleMania, we're headed into NXT TakeOver time, which for the first time, I guess, ever, because even the takeovers at Full Sail are at Full Sail. This is going to be a writ large NXT TakeOver in NXT's backyard. This is the takeover in all takeovers. I'm sure Vince will call it eventually. Do you think that NXT is going to break some big things out here? Because they've even adjusted the schedule to where it's now happening on Saturday night, the night before Mania, as opposed to they're flip-flopping the NXT TakeOver in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, and that was much to my chagrin because I was hoping to see TakeOver, but alas, I'll have to watch it on the network. I think it's going to be good. One of the issues, though, and I saw that with the ticket sales right now, almost everything's sold out, but the secondary market is slow because Orlando is oversaturated with wrestling because of that aforementioned other promotion that kind of drains the soul out of you as you watch it.
I wouldn't go as far as to drain the soul out of you. I think it's a little strong.
I mean, when I watch Impact Wrestling, think about...
Oh, that?
Yeah.
I forgot. Really, they never crossed my mind. You said promotion based out of Orlando, and all I thought was NXT.
No. NXT is awesome. It's actually funny. On the just to go back to Impact for a second, they put a video wall up tonight during their taping of all the people who left to go to WWE. I'm not going to go downstairs and go to my wife and put up a picture of all the boyfriends she had before me and say, hey, I'm still here. That's pathetic.
Wait, is that the point? Is that how they're playing it?
Yeah, they're playing it as like, we screwed up, but now we're going to do it right. This time, I promise we won't drive into the ditch. Oh, God, the GPS said to make a left here.
Oh, man. TNA, or Impact, or whatever you're calling yourselves. It's, from the beginning, TNA's been a Ponzi scheme. And you know how I know it's a Ponzi scheme? Because somehow Jeff Jarrett owns it. I don't know how we got here. But all of a sudden, he was selling Advocare, and he owns Anthem, or owns Impact, or whatever you want to call it. This is a guy who, like you said earlier, was selling gold for Global Force.
Global Force Gold. And now he's in, they've got Pritchard in, they've got Dutch in, they got the whole gang. The only person they need to bring in is like
cooks in that kitchen.
Bring in the ghost of Bill Watts. So,
That's a lot of cooks in that kitchen, man.
So many cooks.
It's interesting to think that maybe the problem before was too many cooks, and so you go ahead and say, let's get Dixie out of here and let's do the same problem.
Well, the problem is at the end of the day, Anthem might have the name on the deed, but they're doing the same thing Dixie. They're hearing nice things being said to them, and so they hand it over to Jeff, and then Jeff does what he did with Dixie until Dixie figured it out. And now we're, as fans, I really don't feel good about this, but I needed TNA to die. And I didn't want people to lose their jobs. Yeah, I didn't want people to lose their jobs. I didn't want people. I know personally, I'd rather lose a job and find one than to have a job that's not going to pay me every month. And they might forget for a couple weeks.
I got a weird question for you. What we know about TNA, things have happened probably the future, but definitely in the past. Do we put Jeff Jarrett in the Homeboy Hall of Fame? I only ask because he's like, oh, we can get these guys for a lick or two. All right, and he goes and brings in all his friends.
I was gonna say he's in the Homeboy Hall of Fame just for ganking Karen Angle.
That's the Homeboy Hall of Shame, sir.
No, because he not only did it as an angle, but then like really did it, and then it was like it's totally cool, and Kurt was cool with it. Or at least cool enough.
He acted cool with it. Kurt Angle had to move some furniture. I'm sorry, man. Because the same thing that happened with Kevin Sullivan and Benoit.
Yeah.
I thought Nancy ended up with Chris.
Yeah. You don't play those games on TV, man. That's why I'm worried about Cody putting Brandy out there.
I'm worried about Big Cass.
Oh, well. I mean, Big Cass is... He's got to deal with a lot on that other show. And I mean, we'll get to SmackDown in a minute, but I was worried about John because he had to be stressed this week.
Oh, super stressed. Let's talk about NXT first before we get to SmackDown Live. Like you said, looks like things are starting to build towards TakeOver Orlando. We had, during this past week's airings, the tag match for the titles of the contractually obligated rematch between DIY and the Authors of Pain, broken up by the Revival. Looks like we're headed to a three-way dance on that piece. I'll tell you what, man. These Authors of Pain kids, they're young, but they're coming along really fast. I saw them live in Nashville a couple weeks ago, taking on DIY. And I think that they've got great chemistry with them, but I think they can also have a really lot of fun chemistry with the Revival. And if you're going to teach the young guys something, putting them in a ring with two of the best teams on the planet is a pretty good way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I know the Revival will not be happy because they wound up finishing second in the Observer Awards for tag teams this year.
They're top guys. Look, they need to name one of their moves after Meltzer, and they'll be over.
I mean, listen. At the end of the day, it's not too shabby to come behind the Young Bucks 3 years in a row. It's not a shame.
Are you a Bucks, Mark?
I love the Bucks. Here, get the belt. I met the Bucks in my hotel room. Well, not my hotel room. Let's not go too far.
Whoa.
In my hotel.
Breaking news.
My hotel last year for WrestleMania, I was going downstairs to get breakfast in my Young Bucks t-shirt and turn around and lo and behold, it is young Matthew Jackson behind me and says, "Nice shirt." I thought it was just a wrestling fan. And then I was like, oh, it's Matt Jackson. And there's Nick Jackson.
I could have hit it a bunch, which we hit it once. How dare you? Come over here, put yourself over, put over the Bucks. All right, well.
Hey, man.
I think the Revival had a better year than the Young Bucks.
I agree wholeheartedly, but
they named their move after Meltzer, so it's a wrap.
I was gonna say they had that 5-star insane six man, yeah.
Yeah, the PWG one, that was a great match. All right, so I think that's where the tag division's headed. Let's talk about the women's division, because we've got a problem. Asuka's the problem because she's so good in the ring and she's so crisp in all of her work. I can't even begin to believe that any of the women in this division can touch her.
Well, I thought I didn't realize how big a problem it was because obviously the fans, even when it was Mickie James, didn't believe that Mickie could do much to her. But I knew we had a problem when Goldberg said on Twitter, "Congratulations on going 150-0." And I looked on cagematch.net and I was like, holy crap, she really is 150-0. And there's nothing you can do. Like, there's no one. Ember Moon, maybe. I don't know, but
even with Ember Moon, like, she's gotten the kind of the Apollo Finn NXT babyface booking and go out there and win decisively and look good doing it, and people will cheer. I don't know anything about her. I want to know more about that character before I can even be kind of invested in what happens next.
Yeah, I would hope in a perfect world they do something where it's a 3-way with my girl Nikki Cross. And Nikki's crazy.
I love Nikki Cross.
Nikki's just full on crazy, so I could see her wrecking her. Between the three of them having a match where Asuka is so depleted that Nikki can get the Duke. But if it's just, no offense to Ember, but I'm sorry, girl, I don't believe it.
I'll tell you what, though, I'd love to see whatever happens. I'd love to see whatever happens in the SmackDown Women's title for the SmackDown after Mania for Asuka to come out with the NXT title.
That'd be nice.
Like just treat it like Paige. Remember, Paige never dropped that belt. She gave it up.
Right.
Like, just give it up. Just walk away from it. I would love. What a specter over the division that would be.
Yeah, you just have to rename it the Asuka Award.
It'd have to be the Asuka lock,
yeah.
The Asuka belt, like something. Yeah, you'd have to really but I think it'd be a really good job, and it would really build our mythos. It's something they did with Paige, but they underplayed it because NXT wasn't as big a thing yet.
Right.
I think you'd have a lot of fun with it. Like, I almost kind of thought that's what they should have done with Kevin. I thought you had to make Finn, so it made 100% sense because the main event seems a little thin at that point. Which brings me to my next point. NXT has been kind of moved in cycles. So 2 years ago, the crown jewel of the division was the women's division, culminating in the Brooklyn match between Sasha and Bayley. This past 2016, it's felt like the focus of the division has been the tag division, culminating in TakeOver Toronto, Serenity Falls, DIY versus Revival, best match of 2016 in my opinion.
Yeah.
It looks like, and this is not me jinxing anything, this main event scene could be something really special in 2017. You're talking about Tommy End, whatever his name's going to be. You're talking about a returning Hideo, a debuting Chris Hero, one of the best wrestlers on the planet, who had a tremendous 2016 without wrestling on anyone's national television show. Like, he's on the top. He's he finished number 7 Wrestler of the Year this year. Everyone ahead of him is New Japan or WWE. He's a truly independent wrestler, and to even have him be on that list is amazing. I'm glad that everyone appreciated what a career year he had, and I'm glad that it ended with him getting re-signed, and I'm excited to see Cassius Ohno in the main event scene. Continuing the main event scene, though, Cien Almas, Shinsuke Nakamura, and the glorious one, Bobby Roode, who's truly hit his stride here in NXT.
Yeah. And that goes back to our conversation about TNA. How do you have a career and just get a chance to prove how good you are, like 15 years in, 12 years in?
But that's the craziest part about it is, for years, these guys, a Samoa Joe, an AJ Styles, a Bobby Roode, people would say, oh, man, I'd love to see. And we'll talk about AJ and Samoa Joe in a second. These 3 guys showed up probably at the perfect time in their careers. Like, for years we said, what if AJ would? But guess what? TNA AJ wasn't this good on the mic.
No.
Samoa Joe was talking in 3 segments on Monday night. TNA Samoa Joe couldn't do that. People say, why are they not in NXT? They're developed. That's what they were developing in NXT with Joe.
Yeah.
How to truly command that presence and never let it slip.
And he learned he learned how to modulate his voice and not scream like a sociopath every time he's in a.
Yeah, you know what? I guarantee Hunter said, have you tried whispering? What do you mean?
He's like,
it's scary when you whisper.
Yeah, here's some Harley Race.
Yeah. And people say, oh, NXT is not truly developmental. They're bringing in these established stars. They're developing them, too, to be WWE superstars, because if Samoa Joe comes over, we'll call it 2008, maybe gets lost in the shuffle. Maybe washes out and never makes it back. This is prime Joe. This is the Joe that WWE needed. And I kind of like the idea that WWE, for a lot of these guys who have taken the other path to get there, it's not a proving ground. It's not a training room. It's a finishing school.
Yeah.
At the end of his run, will we say, I wish we'd gotten 5 more years of AJ? Yeah, we will, because his in-ring work's so good. But we also say, man, he needed those 5 years to grow into the performer so we could appreciate him. I don't know. It's something to think about. And I'm really excited for this main event scene in NXT coming out of TakeOver. Let's talk next about SmackDown Live. We'll go to Raw last this week. So I'm one of the people who wasn't in on Cena, Nikki, and Ms. Maryse. What about you?
I was there for it because I think the Miz has had one of his best years, and Maryse.
Oh, this is clearly.
Maryse has been a big part of that, and so I even mentioned this yesterday during the East Coast cast. I was interested to see where Cena fell on it, because I feel like John's in a position where he's no longer the top dog, or at least the highest of top dogs, if that makes sense. And so this seemed like a throwaway, because in Sports Illustrated, he mentioned he wasn't going to be on last year's WrestleMania if The Rock hadn't shown up for the special appearance. Right. So I didn't know how to take out his role in this, but if it's going to be more of what we saw in that first segment, I'm in. I want all of that.
They were just spitting the bars.
Yeah.
All the bars.
And
it was amazing.
And I don't think the Miz that wrestled John at WrestleMania 5 years ago could have done that.
No, I agree. 100%. 100%. But he's ready now.
Yes.
And I went from lukewarm at best to super in on this match. I'm excited to see. I realize I've never seen Maryse wrestle because I missed her entire period.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited to see Nikki go out there. This is the first time I've acknowledged Nikki and John on screen.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what shenanigans happen in the build. I hope you can keep them separated. But I think they won't because they already teased it. I don't know if you've seen the image where everyone wearing hats. It looks kind of ridiculous. Ellsworth and Carmella will be taking on, or Carmelsworth, if you will, taking on Cena and Nikki on next week's SmackDown. And I'm really excited for that match, if only because James Ellsworth is going to pin John Cena. The Miz is going to be the Miz's fault, or Maryse's fault, or something. But this is where James Ellsworth pins John Cena, and whenever they get done with him and send him back to the Indies, he gets to book himself as the man who beat WWE Champion AJ Styles and who pinned John Cena in 1 year.
That's a heck of a year.
That's a heck of a booking, man. People go from miles around to see that.
I mean, that merch.
He can make money for a while off of that.
Oh, yeah, the merch, because he lives in Baltimore. The merch in Baltimore for him is going to be booming.
Oh, nuts. Nuts. Hell, it even makes sense of the Ellsworth thing. And while it must pain Big Cass to watch his lady hang out with James Ellsworth every week, I've enjoyed their backstage stuff, and I'm glad they're being built to be kind of not necessarily an integral part, but a third cog in this little feud.
Oh, yeah. I think, if anything, we see that SmackDown does a masterful job of finding a role for everybody, even if it's just in placeholder positions, but placeholder positions that mean something for bigger stories down the road.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what I'm hoping is going to happen with that 2 out of 3 falls match. I didn't love it. We're not going to talk much about it, but it happened. It was on television. Becky's missing something. I don't know what it is yet. She may be missing like a true foil.
I think that's what it is, because back in NXT, she had Charlotte. She had, not Dana so much, but she did have
She had Sasha after the tournament.
Yeah. And so.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you read interviews with Charlotte and she says, that's my Sting. I'm Ric Flair, she's Sting. We're going to do this forever. And putting them on separate shows and then putting the other 3 horsewomen on Raw, it just always felt imbalanced. And we'll talk about some of that imbalance when we get to breaking down the Fastlane card. Yeah, I think we're right. They're missing a foil for her. I hope that they can maybe build Natalya after this mini feud with Alexa to being that. Because I think they can be really physical, do good work together. Have we ever seen a Becky Natalya? Oh, we did see that. They had a mini feud at the beginning of the split, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're trying to fix the women's division. Is there any way for us to salvage the tag division? The only answer I can think of, Rich, is to just focus on Alpha. Show us why they're... Because the thing about NXT is they weren't just 2 guys who could wrestle real good. They had personalities. They were fun. They were interesting. I think that's... If you can focus on them as a team, that's step number 1 to fixing the tag division.
Yeah. I think in NXT we got to see the journey from geeky, will you be my tag partner, to brothers and, arms in the ring. And when they got to the WWE, we thought we were going to see a little bit more of that story continuing, and instead they kind of floundered and became just Lord knows what until they finally found their feet and won. So I think they need to do that and concentrate post-Mania on giving them an opportunity to show that personality, kind of like what they've done with the Usos.
Right. That heel turn has been really beneficial for the Usos, and I think that if they can focus on that character bit and maybe give them some play on talking smack, you could go a long way to developing a real good fan base behind Gable and Jordan, because they're just fun to watch in the ring, man, and you spend a little time in that division, we can really get something out of it. Let's talk about the biggest news out of SmackDown, the closing segment. So I think you, me, and everyone else kind of knew that eventually we're going to get a Bray-Randy split. This felt way sooner than I thought.
Yeah. They hit the fast forward button on this, and it went from I was listening to the Torch earlier this week, and someone brought up the idea of Scott Tenorman on South Park. This was the most asymmetrical version of a feud I've ever seen, where Bray didn't really do that much to Randy when they were feuding before he became a Wyatt brother, let alone to justify burning down his house. It's like, hey, Palm, let me borrow PS4 game, Palm. All right. Oh, man, I got a little scratch on it. It's okay. I'm going to kill your wife and family.
It's a really good game, though. No, but you're right. This is the example of disproportionate response, but I like it. I kind of like, because Crazy Randy's the best Randy, right?
Yeah.
And I think this was a heel move for him.
I would hope so.
Well, because the fans want to cheer for Bray. They do the light thing. They want him to be a babyface, and I think they did a good job of him selling it in the ring while it was happening was wonderful. Like, I was like, oh no, Wyndham Rotunda's had a nervous breakdown. He thinks this is actually happening.
Oh yeah, he was losing his mind.
But that sold it for me. That was a really. I bought it. I'm in for the feud. I don't know how we get to. Where do you think we're going? We're going because they're teasing that 3-way, but we're getting Styles Shane, I think.
Oh yeah, and I think that was why the one disadvantage. I really enjoyed the Harper AJ match, but AJ wound up beating him twice in like 5-minute span, and it really didn't help Luke. So now you have this position where Luke's just gotten punked. AJ's about to get punked by Shane in terms of, oh, by the way, you're not going to get your match because Randy suddenly is a sociopath again.
No, I think you're right. I think the interesting thing to me was this the beginning of a really solid Luke Harper face turn?
I really hope it is.
He can go, man. I think he can be a really good asset for the company, I think.
Oh yeah, he is. He's one of those guys where you don't realize how good he is. I mean, that AJ match did a good job of showing some of it.
Oh yeah.
Where he was just fed up in that match. He's like, I'm going to go. I might have 5 minutes, but I'm going to show you in 5 minutes what I should have been showing you all this time, just like kind of Cesaro in that regard.
100%. 100%. But looks like SmackDown is finally hitting the play button in a lot of these Mania feuds, where the title picture is up in smoke but getting a little bit clearer all the same. And Raw is going to start their build to Mania after this Sunday's Fastlane special event. When we're going to go through the card, we're going to talk about Raw via the card. But before we get to that, I do want to talk about what being a fan means. Because a lot of us saw on Raw, they finally gave us the babyface sympathetic interview for Rollins. And of course, he was accosted by the dastardly heel Triple H. Pretty classic pro wrestling storytelling. And this crowd in Green Bay decides to break out the CM Punk chants. Rich, what gut reaction? What did you think when you saw it the first time?
I was like, what are you people doing? I was just completely dumbfounded by what decision they made in terms of, you have this perfectly good thing going on in the ring, and this is why we can't have nice things.
And it's so interesting because when's the last time you went to a Raw?
3 or 4 months ago.
Okay, so you can feel me on this one. Last time I went was in July.
Mm-hmm.
It is an interesting. Being there is way worse than watching on television.
Yes.
Because there's that dead period of commercials. There's no voices. You don't hear anything. There's no announcer, because say what you will about some of the announcers, but they paint the picture to tell the story that you're seeing. And particularly TV tapings, which are way different than special events and than house shows. If there's a house show in your city, go to that show. It's the most fun you're going to have at a wrestling show. But pay-per-views, there's a lot more wrestling and things are moving forward the whole time. With Raws, there's so much dead time and so much dead space. I almost get the crowd kind of going into business for itself. But when the WWE is finally delivering on a storyline that's, what are we in, 4 months now?
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't want to get it. It's childish and small. And if you're going to go to a show to try to get yourself over, just go watch with friends in a bar and pop each other. Like, don't drag the rest of us into it.
But alas, that is what they want to do.
That's why, you know what? for a second, I'm going to be an old person. That's why I don't like Full Sail as much.
Yeah, I can see that.
Those fans, oh man, I just sound like it's me and Jim Cornette now. He's my next guest on UD Podcast, apparently, because I'm just an old person who's mad at the world. Old man yells at cloud. Let's talk about the Fastlane card. It's coming up Sunday. We're going to talk about feuds, talk about predictions, and hopefully have a little fun with it. First pre-show match, Rich Swann and Akira Tozawa versus the Brian Kendrick and Noam Dar, accompanied by Alicia Fox. And if you think that the rumor is that the only reason they're together is because Vince likes the way Noam Dar says Fox, I've heard that's 100% true.
Yes.
Whatever. Hey, so this match has been an interesting build. Noam Dar had the match with Rich Swann, I think, 2 weeks ago. Akira Tozawa has had his ongoing issues with Kendrick. Kendrick offering to be his mentor. Tozawa saying no. I love the way they've done Tozawa's introduction so far. I think the fans are getting behind him. I love the yelling he does with the crowd, the answering back, the interactions there. For all the things people say they're missing with the cruiserweight division, Akira Tozawa's a hit. I've got a Tozawa and Swann going over here. What about you?
I think it's going to be. I'm with you on that one.
Okay, babyface early. Pop the crowd. Little pre-show match. Let's move into the main card now. I don't even know where to start because the order's kind of weird because all these matches feel pretty big. Let's just start at the bottom on the Wikipedia. Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe. This has been building for about 3 weeks now. I like the build. It's been good for me. I think that this is 2 guys who wrestled before who are going to put on a great show. And I think what you need is Joe to look strong as hell, and you need someone to bump their ass off for him, and that's exactly what you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, you get what you pay for. They're bringing it. They give you your money's worth.
Who do you see Joe going over?
Yeah, I have to because he's got, as much as I love Sammy, Joe has to continue on the path of just destroying people.
And plus, you can't get the Sammy comeback if you don't have the Sammy downturn.
Right.
Yeah. So the next match on the card is Sasha Banks and Nia Jax. This has been boiling for a while. I think this is part of the build towards a 4-way at Mania, honestly. Who do you have? Like, what do you think about the build so far, and who do you have in this match?
I think the Queen of Pay-Per-View is going to retain or regain her title.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Sasha and Nia.
Oh, Sasha and Nia. I think it's going to be Sasha has to get a win back, and it has to be through some like banana peel fashion to justify keeping Nia in the title conversation. Maybe, Charlotte tries to be cute and sends Dana down to help Nia win, and it backfires.
I could see that. I kind of see Nia going over, if only because I think you've got to really build her as that monster.
Yeah.
The next match on the list here, Bayley, women's champion, taking on Charlotte Flair. Like you already mentioned it. You kind of spoiled yourself there, sure. But I agree. I think Charlotte Flair, her first pay-per-view loss will not be at Fastlane.
Yeah, I mean, Vince has done the odd thing every now and again, but when he believes in a character, he does not throw important events away. And the first loss on pay-per-view of Charlotte in a singles match, that's not going to happen, just as an aside.
Yeah, I agree too, man. Can I have a quick conversation about Bayley? Because I think they screwed it up.
Yeah.
I'm afraid they screwed it up. It looks not good because it's just, it feels like they rushed her. The thing that worked with Bayley in NXT was them saying, oh, you're not going to win for a while. It was them openly belittling her. And it feels like she got the belt, within 6 months of being on the main roster?
Yeah. There was no struggle.
But it's hard to do a struggle when you haven't developed the rest of your division outside of Charlotte and Sasha. That's why when I was saying earlier that 3 horsewomen on one show should have been an embarrassment of riches for Raw, it's just turned into an embarrassment because there's not one woman at SmackDown that I can't say isn't a legitimate contender to win the title. In Raw, I think there are 4 women on the roster.
Yeah.
Alicia Fox, why isn't she in the ring?
Well,
Dana Brooke honestly can't walk in the circle, so maybe she shouldn't be.
I mean, Dana.
Emma's 27.
Yeah, Emma, God bless her. I mean, as much as they wanted her to be Emelina and all that stuff, she's
She's a wrestler,
yeah,
man.
she's Lance Storm
I don't
trained.
know.
She is not here for, the fun stuff.
Do you think they can salvage the Bayley character?
I think they can. I think the big thing for them though is they're going to have to want to salvage it because
That's the other. There's the rub.
Because Vince, he wants his baby face a certain type of way, a reflection of him really, and he's not going to be dumb enough to fall for something. So why would Bayley?
Right. No, you're 100% right. Next match on the card, tag team titles. Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, the Club, taking on Enzo and Cass. Enzo and Cass win at Mania, right? We're saving that one for Mania. That's a Mania pop,
Yeah,
right?
certified G's, bona fide studs. Except
winning at Mania.
Winning.
In the town where they made their bones at NXT. I think it'll be a big NXT presence for Mania this year. But I think that them winning the title could be one of the crown jewels.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Enzo and Cass, at this point, the only thing left other than that big Mania win is for the eventual. At this point, I can only assume Enzo turns on Cass.
Oh, of course. That's how that ends. Next up, Neville and Jack Gallagher. Another round of applause for Neville. This guy, he has the King of the Cruiserweights. I'm in for it, and I buy it. I think Neville retains here. I don't know who they're going to elevate to take the title off him at Mania. If they do, he may retain at Mania, but they may do a battle royal or something. But I think Neville's definitely keeping his crown this Sunday. What about you?
Oh, I agree. I think the only person that can beat him is the greatest man who ever lived.
Ooh, I can't wait for that match. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, I think at Mania it'll be those two because during Raw he did that delightful announcement where he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm healthy. Let's go."
You're right. Ooh, that's a match I didn't know how much I wanted to see. Next, the second to last match, Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman singles match. They had a hell of a segment to close Raw to the turnbuckle bus. Rich, who do you have in this match? Who do you see going over? How do you see this ending?
I think it's going to end in some sort of like the ring's going to implode or something like that because I can't see either of these guys being put in a weak position because Vince loves them both. This is like Sophie's Choice.
Do you think this is a situation where maybe a returning Taker who has issues with Reigns could interject himself?
Oh, I mean, that would be the best out because then you have Roman, let's say Roman loses and it's entirely because of Taker. Oh, well, there you go. But then you're setting Taker up to be a heel. So that would be.
Well, is he? Because people hate Roman.
You're not wrong there.
I know, but the way you and I think about pro wrestling, yes, he'd be the heel, but the way a lot of these people act, I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be like, oh yeah, good job, thank you, Taker.
Yeah, exactly. And our main event, what a year is 2017, man. Kevin Steen is defending the top title in WWE against Bill effing Goldberg. Never thought I'd see the day. I love the fact that he's bringing back the Steen aspects of the character. I love his mic work. I love his ring work. I think he's been a great champion for them. And unfortunately, this is where the thing is, I know for a fact that he's going to lose the belt.
Yeah.
But man, they've entered that little modicum of doubt, because there's a way to book it where he keeps the belt. It's a long way, but you can do it.
But yeah, I was going to say, but the question is, do you want to see, because knowing Vince, the way he's going to do it, would you want to see a situation where they put the Universal title and Kevin and Jericho in it, and they're on like third after the bottom, like they're basically nothing, as opposed to letting them do their stuff, give the Universal title to Goldberg and Brock, and then Kevin can come screaming back as the happy sociopath we all want.
And I want to. That's what's going to happen. And I want everyone who thinks that it probably will be a good match at Mania. Brock and Goldberg, I think they're both invested in making a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But this is all a way to put the belt back on Brock.
Yeah.
This is all because I think we're in the last year of Brock's contract,
Mm-hmm.
and Vince is about to get some miles out of this guy.
Yeah. And going back to our penultimate match, my question in the back of my head is, who's he getting Brock ready for? Is it Roman or is it Braun?
Oh, it's Roman. He's going to do the job that he tried to do 2 years ago.
Well, we'll have to shake our head slowly as it's happening. It's like, no.
Whatever, dude. I'm here for. Look. Roman has done the work. The guy, he's having trouble getting over because the fans are assholes. Honestly, I don't know. He's fixed the things we've asked him to fix.
Yeah.
From a performer standpoint, there's not a whole lot more he can do. He's got to keep doing what he's doing and connecting with the crowd. I think that you know what honestly would be most endearing for Roman? Go out and do a Lesnar Cena style squash with Strowman. Have Strowman throw him around for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that's what Brock did at Mania, and that got him over before Seth showed up.
But people forget that by the second half of that match, Roman was over.
Yeah.
People were cheering with Superman punches.
I think
Roman's problem is, and Wade Keller mentioned this when it came to Cena, and even someone like, oh God, name escapes me at the moment, but that's fine. Roman needs to have that that come to Jesus moment where he talks to the fans and talks about how he needs them to get him over the top. Because he's tried the Steve Austin method, and that didn't work. He tried the Rock method. That didn't work. Maybe try the Hogan method. See if he can.
The Steve Austin method worked.
Well, when he was saying, I'm not the good guy, I'm not a good guy, I'm not a bad guy, I'm the guy.
No, when he was talking, when he wasn't talking, he was just beating the shit out of people.
Oh, well, yeah. But then they decided that they were going to say suffering succotash and all the other.
No, that was suffering succotash was before this. I never likes to make that joke. I'm talking about the period between TLC and Rumble.
Okay.
When he busted open Triple H.
Oh yeah, that was magnificent.
When he was just the angry, I'm not talking, I'm done talking, Samoan badass. When he Superman punched, you have to remember that at TLC he lost the title.
Yeah.
The next night on Raw in Philadelphia, that place exploded. When he Superman punched Vince McMahon, speared Sheamus and won the belt. The same building he got booed out of for winning the Rumble in a year before. He can get over. But he's not going to get over as Stone Cold. He's not going to get over as Rock. He's not even going to get over as Hogan or Cena. He's going to get over as Roman bleeping Reigns, Samoan badass. And why does he have to talk? I get it.
The problem is, if you're a top guy for Vince, you got to talk.
You know what guys don't have to talk?
Who's that?
Keep a mouthpiece.
Yeah. I thought they were going to give him Paul Heyman for the longest.
No, you don't give him Paul. You put him and Rollins back together. You recreate two dudes with attitude. Shawn Michaels, Diesel.
That's crazy enough to work.
I just booked Roman Reigns. Then you get the feud again because they have great chemistry together.
Oh yeah, they do. I mean, all three of them.
The breakup's gonna come. By the way, I just thought about the other day. We need Roman. I need heel Dean right now.
I mean,
heel Dean's my favorite Dean, and we've never got him in WWE. I'm just a big Mox fan. Just can we get heel Dean, please? Sorry, that was an aside. And that's the Fastlane card. I think we're both right. I think Goldberg takes the belt in the Mania to get it back to Brock, but damn it, I would love to see Kevin hold on to that belt, man.
Yeah, this is definitely the Kevin Owens everyone wanted to see.
Did you catch him on Stone Cold's podcast this week?
Yes, and kudos to Stone Cold because
I was rolling. I've been homesick the last few days, and I listened to that while I was just chilling on my bed, letting the cough syrup knock me out. And him going from a serious appraisal of Owens to jokingly calling him out for stealing the stunner to then half seriously explaining the way the stunner works as it pertains to each part of the body and how you have to hit them in a certain sequence for maximum devastation. It was a thing of beauty because he gave a clinic. He's like, most people don't realize the jaw locks, and if you don't lock the jaw,
it's he talks about the physicality and the mechanisms of the stunner and the way they weave in from kayfabe back out to shoot back in. It's just, if you like pro wrestling, you love that podcast. And a big shout out to the Oscars.
Yes,
because it's the greatest Dusty finish of all time.
Oh yes.
People, what's a Dusty finish?
That's it right there.
That's it. That's a Dusty finish, especially if you're cheering for the Hollow Man.
I was gonna say, if you wanted it to be the truest of Dusty finishes, it would have been in reverse.
You have to be cheering for the Hollow Man. But for people who work, because I know those people exist, they just have bad taste in movies.
Yeah. And presidents usually.
Them, you know what a Dusty finish is now. Now you know. Yeah. It hurts, don't it? Rich, tell them where they can find you, bro.
I'm on Twitter at r.deuce, R-D-O-T-D-E-U-C-E, and Wednesdays and Fridays on the Pro Wrestling Torch at PW Torch.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on. We'll be back next week with another Road to WrestleMania podcast. I'm your host, D. Palm. This is the Unanimous Decision Podcast. Follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. Follow the entire network at the MTR Network. And make sure you leave 5-star reviews. Make sure you subscribe in the iTunes Store. That was your show. This is your outro. See you next week.